Welcome, everyone, to episode 14 of the Total Relationship Podcast. I'm Kim Cochenour, COO at Form Wealth Advisors, joined by my co-host, Tyson Ray, the CEO of Form Wealth Advisors. Today, we are hitting something a little bit different. If you are, as an advisor, wish to have a different relationship with your clients, you probably need to have a different relationship with your business. We have a guest joining us today. Her name is Andrea Schlapia. Andrea's 25 years of experience in financial services leads her to become successful in the financial advisor space as a coach, a mentor, and leadership teams and business owners alike. As the founder of Ironstone, her nationally known practice management firm, Andrea has been featured in multiple industry publications, podcasts, and speaking engagements. Andrea, welcome to the Total Relationship Podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Kim. It is an absolute pleasure to hang out with you guys today.
Yes, we get to spend time with you often off camera, so this is a joy for us to be here. Tyson, before I jump in, I know you're going to want to say something about how much you appreciate Andrea and all of those things, so I'm not even going to try and tell you to be quiet. Why don't you just jump in and put in your 2 cents?
I just feel like this is our chaperone. This is the person that keeps us from fighting. This is the person that, that takes your side way more than I like. And so this is my confession that, to get better, everybody needs help seeing their blind spots. And probably the best thing we've ever done for our firm is to bring in Andrea, bring in a coach who can advocate for what the right decision is when it's not the decision I want to make. And that's why we're helping share this paradigm with those of you that are listening.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect way to say it, Tyson. Andrea, so
it's like
give
a confession, really. It's more just for my benefit. Okay, here we
like
go.
I said, this is going to be a great opportunity.
At least you know, Tyson. At least you know. I'm glad you're where you're at already this morning. Thank you.
So, Andrea, for people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit more about yourself, your business, EOS, and why you chose to jump in the lane and become EOS certified.
Absolutely. Well, as you already noted, like 20 plus years in the industry, it's hard to say that number as it grows, every year to imagine the journey that I've had the blessing to be on. But I started in as a financial advisor myself. And so I'm not just providing EOS and coaching and mentoring as a consultant, but I've sat in the seat. So I speak the language, but I'm absolutely passionate about helping people to be better. So that's the foundation of everything. With that said, my mentor, when I was in the advisor seat, gave me the opportunity to start training and coaching and mentoring advisors and young advisors that were coming in the space, young in the career, young in their life, whatever that was. But that really sparked the direction of where I went and why I'm in the seat I am today. But that opportunity also led to being recruited to 3 different mutual fund firms. So, when the wholesalers walk in and they bring that practice management person with them, that was my job at 3 different, mutual fund firms as the practice management coach consultant for advisors across the industry. So I got to walk into every office, corner office, north, south, east, west, all different channels from independents to banks to hybrids, all of the like. So it allowed me to see so many things and experience a lot in working with advisors. But those jobs are not cool in 2002 and 2008. Because, a down market and a practice management coach do not mix when you work at a mutual fund firm. So I got laid off twice, and ironically by the same human. So it was like Groundhog's Day in 2008, because it was the same exact phone call. And 2008, so it wasn't Zoom, didn't look at people. It was a phone call. But that was also the catalyst to start Ironstone. So December 2008, I decided, why not start a small business consulting firm in the worst down market that you could? And I did a roadshow with my husband up and down the East Coast and knocked on every door that I had ever been in at any of the times of my mutual fund days. And that's how I actually started the business. So, and I made a couple of phone calls to people that I had built, relationships with, and said, hey, will you help me out? I'm starting this because I'm actually passionate about it. I didn't want to change just because I got laid off. I really am going the direction I am. And ironically, Traction came out in 2008, and somebody handed me that book. And I started my own business on Traction, which is EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's a great methodology. So I'm not just sharing it with you and hoping and wishing and wanting everybody to grab onto this, because it really is a lens to help you to get very clear on your vision, helping everybody on the whole team, leadership team and beyond, to have execution of that vision and know where we're going, and ultimately helping you how to have a healthy organization, have a healthy team. Because you know what? Most of the time we're not. That's your cue to enter, Tyson.
Yes, I'm just sitting here having memory lane, just listening to you talk, and it's just wonderful. Painful.
Well, Andrea, that's a good segue, really, because when Tyson and I were talking through this a couple of years ago, we had a handful of different people on the team. We knew we wanted to continue to grow. We knew we needed the right people in the right seats, and there was still some shuffling we needed to do. Even when we had our first meeting, we were working through some of that, even the three of us. And so, Tyson, when we were kind of going through that tipping point of, are we really going to do this? Are we going to be serious about that? What really was that for you?
Well, I think we got to go back actually a little further, because the first time we brought Andrea in, we did all the assessments, and the team was so dysfunctional and so misaligned, and I wanted to just go in an entirely different direction, and no one else was really getting buy-in. And Andrea sat me down and basically said, hey, like, you got to adjust here. You're going to lose the entire team. And I was just like, I thought about it and was like, okay. And outside of one of the founding partners and Kim, who at the time, I think you were part-time or you were new to us, the entire team turned over because they weren't aligned. It wasn't, we had gone through the growing pains of, certain people take you to certain levels and then can't take you beyond that. And if you can't find a fit for them, you got to start deciding, are they the right person? And many times in my career, I went cheap to hire someone in and then grew a role that was so outside of their capacities. They were having the stress and the frustration and the negative energy, and it was just a miserable environment for both parties. And actually, ironically, everybody that is no longer with the team are in roles they need to be in and are thriving as human beings, where they were just sucking the energy out of me and everybody else on the team. And sometimes I was making the hard decision. I think a lot of advisors aren't willing to make that sacrifice, and so they're stuck in the mud. And it was bringing somebody outside in. It's just like, either you need to adjust or you need to retool the team. And we took the opportunity to retool the team to go out and put roles and job descriptions together that Andrea helped us build, and then created a ceiling of complexity that all of a sudden we brought Andrea back in, right? Because once you blow your whole team up, you don't need coaching to go hire a bunch of people we had to go figure some things out, but then brought Andrea back in at the same time with this EOS stuff. And we've been thriving ever since. And there's a lot of reasons for that we look forward to sharing for those of you that are hearing this.
Yeah. So, Andrea, there's a lot of when the rubber meets the road when it comes to implementing EOS in your business. And so for the advisor who's kind of curious, they might have the person that they're not really willing to address the elephant in the room, but they know they kind of need to, or they're just really kind of realizing they need to make this change, but they don't even know what that looks like to implement that in their practice. Can you talk to them about what that means and kind of what it would take to put that in place in their business?
Absolutely. The people challenge is probably the number one challenge for everybody. And this is where I want to say, I beg and plead you, set people free if they don't fit your culture and they don't fit the seat. And when we talk about right people, right seats, there's really three types of, people in that aspect. Right people, right seats, meaning right people, they fit your culture, and it's the right seat, meaning the right role for them. Those are the ones that you absolutely want to nurture and keep. But there are wrong people, right seats. So it's a wrong person for your cultural fit and aligning with your core values, but it's the right seat for the business. And that's where I beg and plead you, make the hard decisions so that you can set them free and help them to be better somewhere else. And then there are wrong people, wrong seat, meaning it is wrong for the culture, the core values, and then the seat is not even right. So those are the ones that you absolutely have to set free, like ASAP. And we usually take that opportunity to bring somebody on. Tyson, you said it perfectly of, you know what, I just needed to fill the seat. And that's when I get a phone call and go, hey, I hired somebody. What do I do with them? Wait, why didn't you align them with your core values? Because your core values are everything. It's your DNA. It's your hiring, firing, reviewing, rewarding, and recognizing people around your core values. But until you discover those, you may be bringing people on that are not aligned. And then it's hire slow, fire fast. If you can just hear that, hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah. Well, we recently onboarded 2 new employees, and we're a growing firm. We've talked about that a couple of different times on this podcast, but a couple of things we've put in place to kind of help communicate, even on the interviewing process of explaining what our culture is and what we're looking to do. Tyson wrote the book, and that actually is part of the hiring process, is reading the book. I'm not asking them to grab, Anatomy and Physiology 202 textbook to read. It's a good read. It's an easy read. And then they also actually go.
I just love I didn't write it for that purpose. We wrote it out there to basically tell financial advisors like, hey, this is a different way of going about things. And then Kim on her own decided that that's part of the interview process, is they got to read this book. And I'm like, who's going to do that? And yet kids show up, or individuals are showing up, and they got sticky notes in it and questions, and they're connecting with it. And it's just like, not that an advisor needs to go write their book, but it was an entirely different way of communicating fit, values, culture, what you're going to do here, what it's going to mean. That wasn't these 3 sentences and 50 words at the most, like Bullet pointed out. It was the application and the both and.
Yeah.
I want to take this in a different direction, because I'm the guy.
Imagine
years
that.
Ago
Imagine
listening
that.
To this podcast, going EOS like. Yeah, I tried that, or I read the book, right? Self-implemented. We tried that. Like, I tried to implement EOS 3 times. The only time it actually I got traction was when we brought in an Andrea, an EOS coach. So Andrea, talk to those that maybe have read the book, maybe they're familiar with EOS, they're trying to self-implement it, they hate it, they tried some software that's not even applicable anymore. Like, how to help them understand the difference between self-implementing and bring in a coach, or why they need EOS in any capacity.
You got it. So again, EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's helping you to look at your business through a different lens, from getting clear on your vision. There's 6 key components in EOS. It is getting clear on your vision, getting your right people in the right seats, which we already talked about, getting your data clear of what you're actually wanting to monitor and measure, uncovering the issues that you need to resolve and how to resolve those, having all of the processes outlined so that you can have a consistent experience, and ultimately getting traction. So 6 key components. The goal is we get 80% strong or better in each of those components. And there's 2 disciplines underneath each of those. There's 20 tools in the whole EOS toolbox. And again, 80% strong is the goal. When I show up, most of the time, it's about 20% strong, because we have an organizational checkup that we provide for us to really get the current condition, because we need to know what's happening in reality to help identify the gaps. And then this is ultimately, how do we close the gaps? So you already said something about perfection this morning before we started, but I'm going to change from, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Otherwise, if you think about it, it's about betterment over perfection, because this is a set of choices to help eliminate the gaps. And that's what EOS is all about, to help get clear on your vision so that everyone can execute on that vision and ultimately become a healthy organization. And we're going from an individual-led practice, if I can say it that way, to shifting to a leadership team run business. and it is elevating you how you operate the business. So I have several teams that I work with and businesses that I work with that have come from self-implementing. And, these are all financial advisor firms, but they haven't gotten as much traction. One of the teams that I have the privilege to work with, they self-implemented for 4 years. And when we were in our session day, and the sessions are full days that we work together on, as you guys know, and we were about 3 sessions in, and they said, we've gotten more done in these first 3 sessions than that we have in 4 years, because you're pushing us more than we pushed ourselves. You're asking us different questions than that we were asking ourselves. We kind of just skated a little bit and didn't go as full bore as you're trying to make us. So you know what I do? I make people feel uncomfortable, as you know very well, Tyson Ray. So putting pen to paper and getting the thoughts out of your head. Everybody has a vision, but they're different. So getting it on paper, talking through it, being open, honest, and vulnerable is the whole entire part of this, to go through and learn all of the tools, really master those foundational tools, and communicating your vision over and over and over. It literally takes, I know you will know the answer to this, but I'm going to quiz you right now. So be ready. How many times do you have to say something before someone hears it once? Anyone?
Remember, Tyson? 7.
I wasn't going to say it because I that's why some of you need to have a team of people to hear for you, because you're not even listening half the time.
Well, at least you know.
And Tyson, it's important. Like, so you didn't create the process. You helped, but like, you're the visionary in this situation. Talk to the person who's like, well, I've been in control of everything. Why would I just not use the process that I think works? Like, what is that like to actually let go and use a process you didn't create to help grow your business?
Yeah. So I think I want to say a couple things. So if I don't nail your point, then you can remind me what you said.
I will.
Because I'm again going back to the ceilings of complexity, and I'm stressed out and I'm frustrated, but I'm successful, right? By whatever criteria of assets or production or years in the business. And it's like you think as it grows, it's going to get simpler, and it just gets harder, and it sucks the energy out of you. And the people that see it you look foolish, right? Because it's the team that sees it. It's the people that you love to go home to see it, and that you put on this happy face every time a client walks in. And so it's like the duplicity of it is just exhausting. And so you're listening to this going, okay, well, but maybe I don't. And the lie is you're hearing about coaching or EOS or traction and all this stuff. And it's just like, yeah, but if this is how it feels to grow, I don't want to grow. And maybe it's not growing, and maybe it's making your life better by transitioning and letting the business start running itself by getting the right people in place. But nothing's going to change unless you realize that, hey, every professional athlete gets coaching on some of the most basic stuff to just not lose sight of it. And if you're feeling like you're running on a treadmill, I'm going to share the story because it's a reflection of my own, of how silly it looks from the outside, and how when someone's observing the advisor that's successful but just miserable, because I was there. And it goes back to college. I was running on a treadmill, and I was running as fast as I could. And then 2 girls came in that I thought, oh, let me get their attention. I'm a freshman in college. My sister sent my sons to college, so I'm kind of remembering my freshman college year. So I started running faster on the treadmill and faster on the treadmill. And I got to the point that is like, I am fully extending every effort I can on this treadmill. And then I shut my eyes to try and exert as much as I could. And what you don't realize, if you're running really fast on a treadmill and you shut your eyes, you lose depth perception. And I was getting further away from the treadmill, and I finally hit the back end of the treadmill. My foot came off, my face hit the ground. I got thrown off the treadmill. There was a cement wall right behind me. Thank God, farther enough away that I didn't get burned in the treadmill, but I left an impression on them, right? And some of you advisors are listening to this, and you're going so fast, and you're thinking you're successful. You think you're holding it all together, and you're just falling apart. And in the end, you look really silly. And what Andrea and EOS came and helped me do was just hit the brakes for a second. Step off of the doing, step out of the office, bring in the key employees that know what the problems are and where the blind spots are and the gaps are, and have a conversation a structured conversation about what are we going to do about it so we don't look ridiculous or have some crash or have some mental breakdown or just lose the joy that is this total relationship you get to have with a client.
I'm going to circle back to what was that actually like for you to submit to a process that wasn't something you created?
Well, it was kind of like falling off the
painful.
treadmill, frankly. It's like painful.
All right. So I could have answered the question for everybody for you.
But you let go of you were willing to let go of the vine, and that is the most challenging thing for any business owner to be able to say, you know, what
I would say I was willing to let go of the vine, or you were willing to take the vine from me.
I was chopping the vine so that you would just drop. I'm like, you know,
it goes back to, you know, we only have so much time and energy, and use a racing analogy. It's like, okay, you're going as fast as you can, but races are won in the pits. When you stop, you refuel, you recharge. You have a coach in your ear trying to tell you what to do next or what to look out for. And every race car has brakes. And what I realized was I suck at braking. Like I'm not wired to slow down. I'm wired to burn myself out and then have scorched earth all around me. And when I reach the end of myself where I'm not healthy and energized and positive, and EOS brought a system that my whole team wants all the details. Like I know step 1 and step 10, and we're going to crush it. Well, step 2, 3, 4, 5 turns out to be very important. And I wasn't good at articulating what those things are. And again, EOS is a vocabulary. EOS is a structure that I have not created, couldn't explain it to my team in a way that empowered them to complement my gifts and talents. And then Andrea comes in as the coach and just continues to help reteach, coach, advocate, educate, allow us to be encouraged, allow us to be held accountable. And the hard part is that sometimes in a team, it's hard for your team to tell you no. If you're the leader and they respect you and you're successful and quite frankly, you may have an ego that it's not easy for someone to be comfortable to tell you no. And I remember I showed up to the first meeting late. Andrea got up, walked right into my face. I wasn't threatened like I was going to get hit, but she was like, if you show up late again, I'm done. I'm never coming back. It's just like, oh, okay. Well, I actually respond well to that. Like, put me in check, but I got like, but have some backing. And Andrea's got some of the experience and the know-how to realize, hey, sometimes the CEO needs to get put in check. And then the crazy thing is then they empower your other team members, like a COO, to help put you in check respectfully. But you know, there are a few people in my life I can count on one hand that can come in my face and just tell me you're dead ass wrong and walk out and leave me with, oh wait, I might need to rethink that. And they're some of the most important people in my life. And now my COO and Kim is one of those people because Andrea has helped empower her in a structure, in agreements, in not letting the urgent crowd out the important, to basically say, hold on, but we need to do this first. No.
And that's the beauty of the two of you with your visionary and your integrator relationship. So if you said, okay, here's another resource besides the book Traction, Rocket Fuel is the visionary integrator duo dynamic. So check that out if you are a COO and a CEO pairing, because that's you two have to be on the same page. But Tyson, we need your big ideas, big relationships, all where are we going in the future? And we need Kim in your integrator role and COO space to be able to say, okay, I hear that idea. That's a great one, but we're going to put it on the parking lot right now because that's not what's the most important thing that we have to do in this time and space. So it's Kim, I value you and how you run the day to day and manage the chaos. But EOS is also taking away that chaos because it takes away the complexity of running a business. And it is a time saver. And if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. Well, and it provides freedom and permission for people to run in their own lanes and in their own unique ability. There's a reason why two visionaries aren't at the helm in a company, that they usually split apart and create their own company. You need to have the dynamics of everyone on the team using their gifts so that you can be successful. Tyson, one of the things I think it's really important for you to share is, what does it actually give you permission to do now that we've been using EOS? Like, how does that give you some freedom?
EOS, because you're involved in helping set up scorecards, which is basically what is the win, what's not a win, helping set up structure, that I have been able to get out of a lot of the reporting of doing of certain things and be able to be free to think. I had said for years that if my team was doing my job, my feet would be up on my desk and I would be looking like I have nothing to do, but I'd be thinking about what the future holds that's going to give people the careers and the growth and the impact that we're going to have and need to have. And the more I was caught up in the doing and the checking on and the managing, the more that took me away from that. And the more I could also then take my energies and get them sideways in different things I didn't need to be involved in. And EOS brought in a structure of hierarchy and responsibilities. And it just, I've had created for years in Word documents, org charts, and then I kept changing the org chart because, right, doesn't work, change it. I'd build the org chart around the who instead of the how. So it's like, well, here's this person, let's just throw this stuff at them till you overwhelm them. And it is a system that is agnostic to industry, right? This has been implemented across all kinds of different businesses so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you can bring in your complement who is more detailed focused, maybe more of a manager, maybe more consistent, that can now lean on the foundation that EOS gives you, lean on the coach to help the job. And again, it just has completely freed me up in ways to be able to write a book or to be able to be a part of my kids' lives more, to be able to actually go hit golf balls again. Right. I mean, it's just, and that's outside of the office is where the solution comes to the problem for the client, or where the solution comes to what you're going to do in the markets or investing, or the solution to come to how are you going to tackle that policy or that new procedure or the new rule that's coming down the pipe, how the industry is changing. What I had to get, and the other thing EOS gave us was the ability to communicate to the team why I did not need to be involved. Because I'm out there hitting golf balls, but feel like I should be in the office, right? But no, I need to go hit that. I need to get out of the office to think of what the solution is, that I'm the only one equipped to solve the problem. And and then you get to trust a system that's not necessarily a person, right? Because people fail and people screw up, and everybody can be held accountable to that. But if you create the system, then you get to change the system by bringing a system in that was created, and then you bring in a coach to hold you accountable to the system. You don't get to change the system, right? You can change the scorecard, but there's a scorecard. You can change what you're going to do in your level 10 meeting, but there's a level 10 meeting. You can change the org chart, but there's an org chart with job descriptions and roles that then you hire into instead of a person that then you give work to. They're very different things. And it's better than I ever thought it could be. And it's worth a multiple of what it costs. And for those of you that are listening to this, especially if you have a practice that you need to find additional team members to take some of the workload off, you're feeling burnt out, you're running on that treadmill, EOS is a way to basically find a way to step off of that paradigm and have some help.
Yeah. Well, and Andrea, you were really instrumental in helping us do that by putting pen to paper, making the process, like outlining, actually getting really clear on the vision. Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? How are we going to get there? What are our uniques in the business? So why do you think it's important for the advisor who's like, yeah, I already have that all in a Word document? Why is that important that they sit down with an implementer and really hash that out?
Excellent question. And this is something so fresh because I just was with a team yesterday and they had self-implemented for several years and were in the beginning stages of this. So they had it's called a vision traction organizer. And so that's where our core values, and there's 8 questions inside of that vision traction organizer. So they had it, we pulled it up on the screen, and you know what? We changed almost all of it. It's because the primary business owner advisor is the one that designed it and came up with the answers to all of those 8 questions, but they hadn't talked about it together. And so when we went through the 8 questions and the exercises and just thoughtfully collaborating as a group of leadership team members, that everybody's voice is important, it really is now this so much stronger. Everybody's all going in the same direction. I mean, that's the beauty of this, is talking through, collaborating with your leadership team so that you're cohesive, open and honest, and being able to say, you know what, I don't believe that. Okay, well, what do we believe to collectively? Because this is bulletproofing your business and creating a legacy. Again, moving from a single-led, individual run practice to a leadership team run business. And all that human energy is rowing in the same direction now. I mean, think about it. We're
That's
each
powerful.
a ball of energy. It is. It's absolutely powerful. If you are all running in the same direction, you're unstoppable. But it's the collaboration and the allowing everybody to have their voice that you have warranted to be on the leadership team, right? Not everybody can be on that. But Tyson, you said some verbiage and EOS verbiage that I just kind of want to highlight. You talked about the accountability chart, which looks like an organizational chart, but every business has a sales and marketing, finance and operation, but we create and customize what your accountability chart is so that you can say who's running each of those different departments, if you will, in your practice. So instead of wondering what's happening with biz dev or client service, you can say, hey, Kim, if you're in the client service seat and you are the leader of that seat, I just can talk to you and have a report from that. Tyson getting the report about biz dev, or Luke getting on, the biz dev seat, and being able to allow people to elevate so that they can bring their voice, but getting all of those leadership team members going in the same direction. Again, open, honest, and you can trust the system because you've built that infrastructure and know what the measurables are, that, what gets measured gets managed and makes come to fruition, I should say.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, Kim, you remember this, but when we first did the org chart, where we had our org chart, right? And I'll never forget it, because Andrea basically, here's the accountability chart. And what we started realizing is okay, at the time, Kim was like an executive assistant, maybe a chief of staff, kind of over compliance, kind of over marketing. And we just stacked those underneath her name. And the pushback was, in the future, are those going to be roles? Yes. Well, then break them out as roles. And when we started breaking out compliance, marketing, bookkeeping, portfolio management, prospecting, and you stepped back and then you put your face by these things. It's like, no wonder we're overwhelmed. It's like you got 7 hats on, for crying out loud. And then it was like, okay, what's the one that's most full that we can maybe start hiring and building a job description to? Or maybe we hire a person that takes over 2 of these with the idea eventually there'll be 1 of these. And it was just a totally different way of looking at things that I would have never done in the org chart, because for 20 plus years, it was like, here's the person, here's their jobs underneath them, not really thinking about that's eventually needing to be its own job. Oh, and when you actually hire people to just do marketing after 20 years of having somebody meet with clients and have a couple different hats, but also have this marketing sidebar thing that's important. But when we actually hired the first person, marketing background, marketing degree, it took our marketing to a whole nother level that we had to hire a second person. And it's unbelievable when all of a sudden that's their gift and talent, how they're wired, and not conflicted because they don't have to go into a client meeting. Right? Not conflicted because they're also dealing with the compliance of the payroll or the compliance of the deposits or checks. Nope, they only deal with the compliance of marketing. And so they all can then function in their own little roles and expectations. You can pat them on the head, you can congratulate them, and they're not conflicted because the client is upset or because someone just walked in the door or they got to go get the mail or whatever the other role is that they had to do. Yeah. And it would have never happened had we not had the system and had a coach walk us through the system.
Yeah.
And that's getting the right people in the right seats. That's building it from structure first, because this is where I will say, I beg and plead you, make the decisions for what the business needs. If you always build things around humans come and go. But if we're building the infrastructure, structure first, people second.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to wrap up on that, because I think there's so much more we can dig into about getting the right people in the right seats and actually addressing some of those big things that I think are really keeping business owners from really growing. It's the EOS barnyard, talking about the elephants in the room. Don't be a bully. Stop beating a dead horse, and kind of realizing and identifying your sacred cows. So we're going to put that into the next episode. So make sure you guys stick around for the next episode. But before we wrap up for today, Tyson and Andrea, is there anything you want to leave people with as we wrap up?
No, I think for Andrea, it's like, hey, if you're interested in EOS or interested in Ironstone, like how do they reach out to you?
You can reach us at ironstonehq.com, but I am happy to give anybody my time that is curious about EOS. And it's a 90-minute meeting that, again, I'm willing to give you my time if you're curious just to explore it. So reach out to us. Again, if you go to our website, there's an opportunity to jump on my Calendly and pick a 90-minute meeting. But you know what? We also put how long you want to hang out if you just have some questions. So happy to do that. But I will say, again, if I can leave you with this, you all have vision in your head, but if you don't get it out on paper and communicate it and repeat it again 7 times, it takes somebody to hear it once. So please don't assume that people know it, because they just don't.
Yeah.
Now you want me to wrap this up?
No, well, we're going to wrap it up whether you want to or not, but I do promise we're going to continue on the next episode. I just wanted to make sure if you had anything else you wanted to share, leave people with.
Yeah, I think occasionally I get asked by those I bump into, it's like, how are you writing a book? How are you doing a monthly video? How are you doing a podcast? How are you running a team? How are you doing, all this stuff? And it's just like, I couldn't do it all before, but for EOS. And but for the ability to have a team that then has that system, it creates multiplication of time and effort that I never would have been able to have had I not implemented it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like to just wrap us up. Today, we will make sure we have another episode coming up next with Andrea, but our featured guest today, Andrea, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for turning on episode 14 of the Total Relationship podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you follow or subscribe so you always know when those next episodes come out. And we will link Andrea's information below as well. So please make sure you find us on LinkedIn. And until next time.